Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Bava Metzia, daf Mem Gimel. We're going to begin on the top of Mem Gimel Amud Aleph by the Mishnah. Says the Masdisen, Hamafkin Moisei Tzil Shulchani. So you gave money to have watched by a Shulchani, someone who's a money changer. So it depends. Im Sarurin, if the money was all wrapped up, that gives the impression that it's not to be used, and therefore he cannot. He has the status of a shemer, and therefore, if he gets lost, like Gneva Aveda, he's going to be potter. However, if it's mutarin, let's say he gave him monies which are untied, that means he is allowed to use that money. That's the implication. And therefore, if it gets lost, at that point, he now will be chayiv for it getting lost. So that's by a shulchani. It depends whether it's tied or untied. Eitzel b'halbayis, if you just give it to some random person to watch in their house, in which this person doesn't generally use money like a shulchani, so bein surun bein mutarin lo yishtamish mehen. You're not allowed to use it, even though the money you gave him was untied. If it gets lost, then the Baal Bayis is not chayiv. However, a chenvini is a machlokas. You gave it to a chenvini, the store owner, so he's not like a Baal Bayis necessarily, but he also isn't like a shulchani who primarily deals with money. So the question is, what is his status? Kabbalah Bayis de Rameir. According to Rameir, he can never use it, even if it's untied. Rabbi Huda Omer chenvini keshulchani, and therefore a chenvini could use it if it's untied. So the machlokas is whether a chenvini can use it if it is untied. Says the Gemara. So mishum deserurin yishtamish behen. Understand? How do we know he can't use it? Maybe he just wanted it all together. How do we know the fact that it's tied up together that's any gili das that he doesn't want him to be able to use his money? So Rabbi Yehuda b'serurin v'chasumin shanu. It wasn't just sealed, but there was also like a signature that if you would break the seal, the signature would crack, which clearly he doesn't want it used. Ramori Omer b'kesh mishuna. We're talking about where it was an unusual knot, which again, why did he do it in this way? He obviously did it because he didn't want the knot to be broken. Ramori actually asked the question, Keshem mishuna mai teku. Mutarin yishtamish men v'chul. So Omer Rav Huna b'afil ne'ensu. Not even if it was stolen or lost, like Gneva Aveda, but even if it was an oinus, says Rashi, unbelievably, even if you didn't even use it, but the potential of him being able to use it, he is considered to be a shoyel immediately, even if it was never used, but therefore, no matter what, because it was untied, he has the din as a shoyel, and therefore, even if he didn't use it, if it gets, even if an oinus happens to it, he'll still be chayiv. What do you mean? But the Mishnah doesn't say an oinus. V'ha'avdu katan, it says was lost. K'derabba, Yamarabba, nignavu, b'list mezuyin. It's talking about that was stolen by bandits. Or avdu, what does it mean? It was lost. Shetovu b'sinos b'yam, that's sunk in the sea. So these are actually an oinus. So Gneva Aveda could be delivered and framed as an oinus. Rav Nachman Omer, no, nensu loy. When a person has this item, he will not be chayiv if it's an oinus. Says Rashi, because kozman shel nishtamishmo havi loy havi shoyel el avdu davka chayiv kashemer sachar. He's only chayiv if it gets lost, but not by an oinus. He has the status of a shemer sachar. So the question basically is this person like a shemer sachar who is chayiv beginning b'aveda but not by oinsin, or even like a shoyel? And the question is, are you chayiv, or you're already considered like a shoyel even if you didn't use it yet? So Rav Nachman that's so low. So Amarli Rava, Rav Nachman didach the Amen that you said that you're not going to be chayiv as an oinus. Alamolei havi shoyel. Why isn't he considered to be like a borrower right away? The shoyel havi shemer sachar namul havi. If he's not a shoyel, then why are we calling him a shemer sachar? He's not being paid either. So why do we say he's a shemer sachar? So Amalei baha modinalach. Regarding this, that he's a shemer sachar, that I agree he is, and therefore he will be chayiv at least by aveda. The hoyel of nehenna mehana bahu hana. The fact that he has the potential to be able to use this item, so therefore we say that he has an element of hana to elevate him to the status of the Shomer Sachar. If he has the potential of making some money, he will buy it with this money. And therefore he is elevated to the status of a Shomer Sachar. Says Rashi, even though it's true, you're not a shoyel until you actually use it. However, he will be considered to be a Shomer Sachar. Okay. Because, again, he at least has this hana that he could always use it for a business deal, and therefore he would be elevated, therefore, as at least the status of Shomer Sachar, will be chayv for Aveda. Eis Rav Nachman Rav Huna. So Rav Nachman asks a kasha to you, according to you, Rav Huna, that you say that the din is that when it comes to this item, even Nensu Yechayev, Hamafkin Moisetzel Shulchani, the Mishnah says that if you leave money by a money changer, so im surin l'ishtamshen, if it's tied up, he can't use it. Lafikach im hoitzi, if he does, loy moyel hagizbar, the gizbar will not be moyel in this situation. He will not have, even though he's potentially using something of kachim, of hektish. Says Rashi, gizbar ham shehifkin mois hektish, and he didn't know, so the gizbar will not be moil. Says Rashi, shahari lober shos hotziyai benu shluchai ve'im mutarin, if the money was untied, yishtamish b'hen yuzil lefichachim hoitzi moil hagizbar, in that situation, because he had the right to be able to use this money, so therefore the gizbar will be moil. Now, if you want to tell me, as you said, that this person is going to be chayiv even by an oinus, my area hoitzi, feel lo hoitzi nami. Why is it talking about a situation that the monies were expended, even if it wasn't? Says Rashi. Tana masnisa nechayev shulchani v'achriyusa nimsa misha shehifkidu etzel yotzim rishus hektish. It immediately goes down to the rishus of hektish of all rishus shulchani, and now it goes down to the rishus of the rishus shulchani. V'nasa kamo shaloivelo v'in hoitza gadol mizu my iri hoitzi. I understand if it is transferred now into the rishus of the shulchani, so then that's already enough. Why does it have to be that he spent it? So you're right. Even if it wasn't expended, the idea did tana reisha hoitzi, tana sevanami hoitzi. So really, you're right. It doesn't make any difference. Question 5. Gizbar shehifkin mimois hektish etzel shulchani ve'ena serurin. So it wasn't tied up, which means technically these types of money normally by shulchani could be used because it's hektish. The kasavar shehem shulo, he thought it was his. He moyel hagizbar. Will the gizbar be moyel miyad b'misiraso when he gives over the money? Or rak kishiyotzi hashulchani hamois lutzarko, only when he actually uses it. So, according to the Madiyam, who says the havi shulchani shoyel, that the shulchani automatically comes like a bar and therefore he's chayiv even on einzin, that's ifil kodim shayitzim. That happens immediately, even if he doesn't use the money, and therefore he'll be moyel immediately. It has to be mamish that you use the money. Okay, says the next Mishnah. So you end up having a pikadon, but you end up using it against the wishes of the person who gave you the pikadon. And what ends up happening, he later sold it, or let's say depleted it. So Beishami Ormim Yilka b'chaser v'yaser. We're going to understand what this means. But according to Beishami, you lose out whether it goes down or up. Says Rashi, Im chasru dameha. If let's say it went down, shehuz lo b'shuk. It came. This item has a lower value now in the marketplace. Yisham dameha kamo shehaisis shav b'shishashach b'yad. According to Beishami, you have to look at it not the way it is now, but when you actually used it improperly, you did shlich hashad, that's when you're chayiv. Shishas exel. That's considered to like the time when you steal, because a gazlan pays kishas exel from the time that he stole, not what happens afterwards. So what happens afterwards is immaterial. It doesn't make any difference if it went up or down in value. The din should be the same, and therefore that's the reason why our Mishnah says, according to him, that when it comes to the situation, it's kishas exel. the time of the shlich hashad. V'chein kol hagazlanim misham kishas gzela. K'gan shehoitzi she'enu be'en. We're talking about specifically where it's not around. If the item doesn't exist anymore. However, says Rashi, however, if you still have it, even when it went down in value, you could give it back, and you can say harshal chavanecha even if it went down in value. So that is the din that we've said elsewhere. Okay, so of course our Mishnah of Beis Shammai is talking about where it's not here anymore. If it's here, you can say harshal chavanecha. So we're talking about a situation davka where it's not here, and therefore the din is that it's totally on how much it was worth at the time of shlich hashad. So even let's say it went down in value, that's too bad. You still have to give them the more expensive amount, how much it was worth when you used it. Beis Hill says no, it's actually at the time in which you actually used the item. It was and let's say it was later sold or whatever. So even a later time. So if it went up or down in value, Beis Hill says that's how we look at it. Not at the time where you shlich hashad, where you took it for your own benefit, but it's when you actually used it completely. Rabbi Kiva Omer kashas hatfiya. It's the time, says Rashi, kashas shiyitbul adin, the time in which you were taken to court. Okay. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabba, Haiman de gozel chavisa de chamra mechavre, and we had this before. Someone who stole a barrel of wine from his friend. So mikara shavi zuzah, originally it was worth $1. Hash shavi arba, then it went up in value, went from 1 to 4. So tavra or shasya, let's say you broke it or drank it, which means it's not here anymore. So mishalom arba, you have to pay 4, which means that according to this, we don't pay at the time of the gazela, but rather you pay the amount later on, which sounds a lot like Beis Hillel. Itbar memela, let's say it broke by itself, not that you broke it. Mishal Mezuzah, you only have to pay how much it was worth before. So my time, the Isa Hadu Amara Be'ena. If it was here, you could have just given it back how much it was. So it was worth a zuz. Now it's a zuz. So he shaited the kashasile or the kotavile. The time you drank or broke it, kagozmine. It was actually at that time is when you stole it. So therefore, that's the idea. You could have given it back at 1. But since you end up drinking it when it was worth 4, that's considered kshas exel, the 4, and therefore that's why you're chayav the 4. Okay, therefore, by actively breaking it, he's chayav right now for this act when it was 4. Itbar memela, on the other hand, misham zuzah my time hashtali avdalei v'omid. You didn't really do anything. So my kam chayav for what are you chayav for? He shaited guzzle at the time where you stole it before. So he shaited zuzahu deshavi. It was only worth a zuz, and therefore you have to return the zuz. Tanan. Now let's understand our Mishnah. Beis Hill oimrim kishas haitzah. So my kishas haitzah. Ilim kishas haitzah min ha'olam that's gone. Right? It was, let's say, consumed. What our Mishnah is talking about. So uvamai. What are we talking about? Ibechaser. If it went down in value, so it went from 4 to 1. Right, and therefore he's saying you only have to pay the 1 if you drank it. Does anyone say that? So if it went down in price, you should pay the bigger price kashas gzela. You should pay like we said, the 4. Right. So again, our case we just read was it went from 1 to 4, it went up. But when it goes from 4 to 1, no one's going to say you only have to pay 1. You should certainly have to pay kashas gzela. So how do we understand Beis Hillel? The Ibi Yaser, if let's say we're talking about up in the value, how to Beis Shammai, that's the same thing as Beis Shammai, because if it went from, let's say, 1 to 4, so that's the din. Beis Shammai says that you pay the way how much it was, right? So how do we understand this? So let's continue. Ella, as we continue to Mem Gimel Amud Beis. Pshita, what does the sheet? What does it mean? Hoitzah Beis Hillel. Pshita kashas hoitzah mebeis baal. It means you took it from the guy's house. You stole it at the time of the gazela. So that's what it's referring to. So we go busser how much ever it was worth at the time you stole it. So lema Rabbi the Yerma Beis Shammai. So that means Rabbi holds like Beis Shammai. Shamalach Rabbi b'yaser dekol yamalul pliki. If it went up in value, no one's going to argue that certainly the din is you pay what it was 1 went to 4, like we said, since you ate it or whatever. So then you always go at that time it's 4. Ki pli b'chaser. What if it went down? So it went from 4 to 1. Beis Shammai sabri shlicha shad enu sricha chisarin. When it comes to shlicha shad, you're still chayiv even if you didn't actually do anything to ruin it. It's not any less. You still violate it right away. So therefore, b'chi chaser b'shus didei chaser. When it went down, it was in his rishus. So Beis Hillel says you pay the higher price. For let's say it went from 4 to 1, you should pay how much it was at 4 because you did the shlich jad right away the second you took it, even if there was no chisaron. It doesn't make any difference. And Beis Hillel savi shlich jad sricha chisaron. In order to have violated, it's not just enough to pick it up or anything. You actually have to have done something to have depleted its value or depreciated its value. And therefore, when it went from 4 to 1, it went down in the other person's rishus. It wasn't until he actually used it. So maybe the whole machlokus is b'chaser. So everyone holds from 1 to 4, you pay 4. 4 to 1 is a machlokus. According to Rabbi, who says it doesn't need chisaron, so Rabbi the Yemer Beis Shammai. So you tell me Rabbi has to hold like Beis Shammai and not like Beis Hillel, obviously. What happened was you used this like we mentioned this before, like a barrel, as we were talking about, but not to actually use it for its contents, but to stand on it. You wanted to be able to get to some birds. So what happened is you became a shoyl. You borrowed it without the rishus of the Baal, and therefore you have to put it back. And the question is, do you need to tell them that you put it back? That if you borrow something without consent, you have the status of a gazlan, and therefore, if you're a gazlan, what does that change? And therefore, it's yours, and therefore it went down in your rishus, and therefore you have to pay the higher amount, the 4. So when it went down, you are still you're koined. So again, either you can say Beis Shammai says you're koined the shlich hashad immediately. That's the reason why you get the 4, because he holds shlich hashad and shlich chisaron. Or you could hold that by shlich hashad, the din is that it's he's considered like a shoyl shomadas. He's a gazan. Beis Hillel savi shomadas shoyl havi. He's just still a borrower. The chichaser is shusa demar chaser, and therefore it was still he was just borrowing it. He didn't, and it was only at the time when it got depleted, and therefore because of that he only has to pay the smaller amount. El hadiyam Rabbi shol shomadas kurabanan gazan havi. So halema Rabbi the Yemer Beis Shammai. Again, we don't want to establish any of these people like Beis Shammai, poor Beis Shammai, but we pass like Beis Hillel. So therefore, all these tirutzim, they are good, but we end up painting Tana in the corner, saying that he's only like the Shita Beis Shammai. El hacha, and this perhaps is the maskana, b'shvach shel gazel k'mifagi. We're talking about any improvements that may happen, let's say, to an animal when after it's been stolen. Do we say that the gazlan or the nigzel gets to keep these improvements? Beis Shammai savi shvach gazela the nigzel havi, that it goes back to the original person, not the thief. Beis Hillel savi shvach gazela the gazela havi, the gazlan havi. It actually does go to him. Now, what exactly are we talking about? When the Mishnah says b'chaser, b'yaser, less, more. So Rashi explains the chaser dahainu gizois. How did it become less? Not because it is less valuable, but you sheared its wool. What do you mean it got increased? Let's say it got impregnated, this animal, by you. The Brisa, Beis Hillel, so the question is, who gets these things? According to Beis Shammai, he says that it goes to the gazlan, the shvach of the gazela goes to the nigzel. He doesn't keep it at all. Which is the reason why it makes sense. The language of our Mishnah says by Beis Shammai, he says yilke b'chaser v'yaser. He loses out because the gazlan doesn't get it. It goes to the nigzel. However, Beis Hillel says no. the gospel will keep it. And this is based on the same machlokas tanoim. The sign Rachel goza. Let's say you shear this sheep, the yolda, and it gives birth, or it gives birth. So you have to pay everything, which again is what Beis Shammai sounds like. That the gazelle goes back as it is, which means that the gazel gets to keep these shearings and the vlad. Says Rashi, the gizas vladus plea. You must be talking about shearings and offspring. The language of less and more. It doesn't say zol v'yoiker. The thing itself went up or down in value and price. It's talking about it got lessened or bigger. It's something. How did it get smaller? By shearing it. How did it get bigger? By the animal giving birth or getting impregnated. Question 6. So why don't we say, so he holds, Rameir holds like Beis Shammai? Okay, it's a good kasha. Why don't we just ask that same kasha? L'chayra would be the same question. Okay. See if Taisus talks about that. So question 6. So he said it has to do with the shearings and the offspring. Because it says yaser, chaser and yaser, it doesn't say zoyel v'yoiker. Okay, so that's the answer to that. Okay, Rabbi Kiva oimer kashas hatfiyah. It's actually at the time in which the claim is made in Beis Din. So Rabbi Yehuda Meshmuel halach Rabbi Kiva. Halach is actually like that. Why do Rabbi Kiva? However, even though Rabbi Kiva does say this, and the halacha may be in fact like him, he will admit, if there's witnesses that saw him steal it. In that situation, says Rashi, how much it was worth, but Yom Shigazla, how much it was worth at the time it was stolen. Rosh Shigazla, he meant it was stolen, if you actually have witnesses, we don't go Bash Kshas Hatfiyah, but rather the time which the witnesses saw. So my time, Nemakral, Asher Huloi, to those who were there, it should be given on that day in which the iniquity took place. So therefore, that is what the chiyuv is. It's not totally on the tefiyah, but rather it's the time of when the Edom came and actually saw it. So that's when he's chayiv, which is again at the time of the gazelle, because there was Edom that saw this. Only Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yehuda, Rav Ato Imer Kain. Rav or Rabbi, you said this. Rabbi Asi, Rabbi Yochanan, Cholk Rabbi Kiva fil b'makam sheish Edom. And he actually says that Rabbi Kiva disagrees, even if there are witnesses, that you actually would still pay kishas hatviyah, not the time of the. Not the kshas exil. My time never call asher hu lo yitnenu b'yamashmaso ubeidinahu dekom mechayvile ashma. And it's totally in the Beis Din. So when is that? B'shas tefiyah. So Amalei Rav Zil Rav Abba Bar Papa Ki Asos Hasim. When you go over there, Akif at Sulama Detsur, to take the long way of Ul Gabe Rav Yaakov Bar Edin. You should go to him. Your boy Mine, I want you to ask him the question. Ishmael Leil Rav Yochanan Halach Rabbi Kiva and Halach Rabbi Kiva. If in fact he heard that the halacha is like Rabbi Kiva or not, then we go Kshas HaTfiyah. Rabbi Yochanan Halach Rabbi Kiva L'oilam. The halacha is like him forever, always. My L'oilam. Jamavashi Shloi Timer. Don't say Hanimi Lehechad Lecha Edim Lehechad Edim Loi. If there are witnesses, we don't like Rabbi Kiva, and rather it's Kshas Exel V'inami. Gahadu L'Dochta. It was returned to its place. The Itabra, and it broke. Lafukan Rabbi Shmuel, the Emer Lo B'inan Das Bailim, that you don't need Das Bailim, Kamash Shmuel, Divina Das Bailim. Rabbi Omer Halacha K'Beis Hillel. He actually disagrees, and says the Halacha is actually Beis Hillel. Says Rashi, Kishas Gazela, V'anan Karava Abdinan Dahavile Batra. We actually will hold like Rava, because he is the last statement. We follow the last statement. Okay. Let's possibly see this mission. Next mission, let's see question TA 29. Yizbar shehifkin moisarin etzel shulchani. So he left money to a shulchani, but it was it was ha'im bal ha'im moil b'shah shehifkidu ma zeh toli. Okay, this is just a simple question. When exactly are you going to be chayiv? So are you considered to be a shoyel even before you actually use it, TH29, or is it going to only be even the fact that you have the opportunity to use it? So Rashi, question 29 says, "Omandi omer shoyel havi moil miyad, omandi b'shemesh sachar havi loy moil ad shiyotzi." Oh, the question is ha'im moil, right? So it has to do with mi'ila. Okay, so this is very similar to question 5. Okay, it's really the same question. TB 30. Hashleach had be called them mishamrim yiluka b'chasam yaser. Beisel armir mishasang hoitza b'manechachu maskana. Zeh muchach mehaloshain shel chaser uviyaser shezet toli im tavarim kamo gizos avodais v'loy al hayoker v'zoil. So didn't really answer what the question was entirely, but maybe they gave me credit for that. But again, it has to do with does it go to the nigzel or does the shvach go to the nigzel or to the gazel? Okay, let's try to see this. Finish the parak. Says the last masnisan of this parak. You only have a thought to use it, but you didn't actually do it. You're chayiv right away. Says Rashi, that you basically made a declaration that you're going to be using it. You're chayiv right away for oinsim from that day on, and therefore you're chayiv achrayis even if an oinus happens. That's Beis Shammai. You actually have to physically use it. Because it says in the pasuk, if you didn't use it, which is mashma, just saying you're going to use it or having the machshav is not enough. That's the end of that. We'll get back to that. And then the Mishnah concludes, Hita es hachavis. Let's say you tilt a barrel, you didn't lift it up, and you took a revius of wine from it, v'nishbara, and then the barrel breaks, and mishalom el revius. You only have to pay back the revius. It says it broke l'achar zman, not because you did it. So you tilted it, took some wine out, put it back, and then it broke later on. You only pay the revius. Why the shlich hashad enu mischayev ba'ointim ad sheyimshach o yagbia dehavi kiniya. You actually have to shlich hashad means you have to have done some type of a kinyan on it by picking it up and the like. Therefore, the Mishnah concludes that hagbia, if you physically picked up the barrel, so you made a kinyan, but not only made a revius and dishma mishlam demikula, then you have to pay the entire thing. Okay, let's see the top of Mem Dalet Manalef. Let's try to finish this parak. Says the Gemara. So min hanimuli. How do we know again based on this machlokas whether or not you need a machshava is enough or you actually need a maisa? So base Hillel is pretty clear. It says I'll call them pasha. It says so it's totally and actually an action. The Taraban, I'll call davar pasha ve'shami or me'molam shechayev al hamachshava kamaisa. The fact that it says I'll call davar or call dibor is mashma that even your speech alone, even not doing anything, is enough. Ve'asil or me'minachayev an shishach v'yad, as the Mishnah said, shnemer imo shach yad mo'achas reyehu. So Ramlahan be'shami ve'asil, understand. How could you disagree with me, but you're going against the pasuk? Well, come on, nemer I'll call davar pasha. How could you do that? So Amrahan Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, okay. So how are you any better? The pasuk clearly says you have to do something. So why would a machshav be enough? So Imkein Matamud Lemer Al Kol Davar Pasha. What does Al Kol Davar Pasha mean according to Beis Hillel? It doesn't mean words enough will make you chayiv, because you actually have to shalach yad malachas reyehu. It has to be shalach yad malachas reyehu. You actually have to do it. So what does this pasuk mean? I'll call them a pasha according to Beis Hillel. Shiachal ainli elahu. You're only chayiv if you do it. If you ask someone else to do it, Talmud Leimer, I'll call them a pasha. Now, even though we hold that when it comes to the dinim of doing a sin, we say in shlichus nevar ve'orikus divrei Talmud, divrei harav. Divrei Talmud, divrei mishaymin, who you're going to listen to, the teacher, the student. You listen to the teacher, so therefore we should say you're not going to be chayiv if a shliach does it. Over here, this teaches us that yesh shlichus l'davar ver. Question 7. Man nilman min haksav gabi shlichus shad kol davar pesha. So according to again Beis Hillel, it tells you're chayiv v'shlichus shad to a shliach. Then you shliach l'davar ver by me when it comes to the dinim of shlichus shad. also by Mi'ila and Dal Behe. Those are the other exceptions. The Gemara in Kiddushin talks about Beis Shammai is chayav al machshava the shlichus yad kamaisa, even a machshava. Okay, let's finish the parak. Hita as a chavis v'chul. So if you tilted the barrel, and in that situation, so you didn't a kinyan, so you only have to pay for the revius yain that you took. Omer Rabba lo shano ela nishbra. That's only the situation where the barrel broke. Aval hechmitza. Let's say the wine turned vinegary, so that already is an element of being a pshia. Misham is cool, therefore you have to pay the whole thing. My time, giri didehu dehanile. It's like your arrows, because the fact that perhaps the reason why you opened it up, that caused the wine to become vinegary first, because it was in a sealed barrel, and if you didn't touch it, it would have been fine. But the fact you opened it up and exposed it to the air and everything like that, so they're going to be chayiv. Once you did hagbah, you're chayiv on the whole barrel that broke. Doesn't mean that you actually took once you even had the idea of wanting to take, because you actually physically picked it up, even though you didn't actually take. So it must be that he holds that to be chayiv shlich hashad, you don't even have to take anything away, which again was a machlokas. So shani hach, it's different over here. When you lifted up the barrel, the nichle, it's clear that it was good for you to tahavi hachavius kul bosis l'haravius, because the whole barrel became like a holding place for your revius. Therefore, Rashi says, yayin shenu mishtamer el bekli mole. Let's say it's in a full cup. Havile kamisha natal, it's like you took it. The nichu imashar, like you took it together with everything else. Shahanishtamir v'nasa shoyel al kol shar hachavius. You become like a shoyel for everything. Boy Ravashi, hagbia arniki, if we lift up a money belt, lital himenu dinner to take money, mahu. Chamrahu deloi mintar el agav chamra, that the wine is protected and is better because it's with other wine. Wine is good because it's together with other wine. If you just have only revius of wine, it's not going to be good. But if you put it together in a big barrel, so even though you took that small amount, but it was connected to all the other wine, which made it better, therefore you're chayav for all the wine. Zuzah mintar, even a coin is protected by itself. You don't need other money to say that's like this money is a basis for this other money. Maybe there's a different levels of guarding it. If you're only guarding one zuz, that may not be as significant as guarding a wallet filled with cash. Teku. Okay, question 7 we did, possibly TA 30. Hita es achavius v'natal imen revius v'nishbro hichmitza ha'im chayiv al kula umadua. So if it broke, as we saw in the Mishnah, if all you did was tilt it, and you took some wine, and it broke, it's the language of the Mishnah, of nishbra, so then in that situation, you are going to only have to pay for the revius. However, the diak that the Gemara made over here is losha el nishbra. That's only if it broke. Of a hechmitza mishalem es kula. In that situation, you would have to pay the entire thing if it became vinegary. Let's see what he wrote. Nishbra pater de havali einis. Shlich hashad loy havi kivan de loy hagbia. He didn't do a hagbah. Of a hechmitza chayiv de giri didei hanile. The reason is because it's considered to be like your arrows, and therefore you will be chayiv. Hadunolach hamafkid, hadunolach hamafkid, hadunolach hamafkid. A little bit nervous about the next two prakim. Tomorrow we'll start Perek HaZahav. Ad Kan.